have others too. It's over there.
Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, Monday, November the 13th. At this time, we are open the floor for a public hearing. A public hearing on a text amendment on the Fire Code with the 2021 edition of the International Code Council and the subsequent ordinance change needed to facilitate the change. Anyone like to address the board in a public hearing? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and call the meeting to order for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. This time, I'd like to invite Reverend Ernest Jones to please come to the podium and deliver the invocation and the subsequent pledge to the flag. Please stand.
Let's pray. Father God, we thank you for the opportunity, the privilege of serving others. I pray an anointing on this group, our city planners, mayor, aldermen, and everyone that's in the city government. Anoint them, empower them, give them wisdom, knowledge, understanding in performing their duties as they serve this great city. Father God, we do praise you and worship you for who you are. You loved us so much. You created us, created the world and universe, and you created Tullahoma, Tennessee. And we ask for your blessings for every family and every future family. In Christ's name, amen. Amen. Attention, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Jones. I'd like to ask the city recorder to please call the roll.
Hallmacher. Here. Noah.
Here.
Berry.
Here.
Glick. Mann.
Here.
Mathis.
Here.
Wilson.
Present.
I believe we have 6 present. Quorum, it's early. At this time, we have no accommodations or certificates tonight, but we do have a proclamation that I'd like to read. Proclamation is to the Alzheimer's Association for Purple Out, Tennessee. If you would, I'd like to ask the city recorder to please read the proclamation.
Whereas Alzheimer's disease is a devastating brain disease that impairs memory, reasoning, motor skills, and the ability to take care of oneself, the impact of Alzheimer's on individuals, families, and our healthcare system make the disease one of the nation's primary medical, social, and fiscal challenges. And whereas more than 120,000 Tennesseans are living with Alzheimer's disease, the most common form of dementia, and 1 in 7 American workers are also family caregivers for someone with dementia. And whereas according to the National Institute of Aging, Alzheimer's disease is currently ranked as the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. But recent estimates indicate that the disorder may rank 3rd as a cause of death. And whereas Alzheimer's Tennessee is a statewide, independent 501c3 non-for-profit organization based in Tennessee since 1983 that provides support services to our citizens, promotes brain health through education, and champions global research for better prevention and treatment strategies. And whereas the State Court Clerks Association of Tennessee voted to adopt this and support Alzheimer's Tennessee to help fulfill this organization's vision to make Alzheimer's a memory, And whereas the city of Tullahoma, along with the court clerks and communities across the state, are showing their support by participating in Purple Out Tennessee to support Alzheimer's Tennessee and raise awareness about the state's Silver Alert law during November, first declared National Alzheimer's Awareness Month by President Ronald Reagan. And now, therefore, Ray Noest proclaims November 3rd, 2023 as Purple Out Tennessee and commend its observance to all citizens and urge all city and county employees, citizens, and everyone across the state of Tennessee to join in this effort to bring Tennesseans home with Silver Alert awareness and raise funds to support the work of Alzheimer's Tennessee. Together, we will make Alzheimer's a memory.
Ms. Gray, if you would join me at the flag, I'd like to make the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Won't it be wonderful when we don't need to do this any longer? I am Fran Gray, Regional Coordinator of Alzheimer's Tennessee in Tullahoma, and parts of 13 counties are near us. It is my honor to bring this proclamation to you, and thank you so much for signing this and proclaiming this to be Alzheimer's Awareness Month. Isn't it ironic that President Reagan himself declared this 40 years ago, not knowing what was ahead for him? I'm glad that the good Lord doesn't tell us way ahead of what we're going to be facing. But we do know that if we maintain good health as best we can for all of our life, that we can possibly battle what may come before us, including some form of dementia. I will encourage all of you and our citizens to be good to themselves. I was just speaking with Parks and Rec about how I need to come over and take advantage of D.W. Wilson and do some working out so I will be healthier. We encourage lots of regular exercise. We encourage a lot of brain exercise too. Learn something new and enjoy it and share it. We encourage good eating, good diets of whole food, and try to stay away from a lot of processed foods if possible. And I will say that I still cruise the Sonic, but I try not to on a daily basis. And also, we need to get good rest. All of us need a good night's rest so our brains can get rid of today's trash and be refreshed and ready for tomorrow. And last but not least, we all need to be with each other. We need to socialize. We need to connect. I think we have a phenomenon going on in our country of loneliness, and sadly, I think some people do die of loneliness. So we encourage all citizens, whether we're aging or whether we're new on the planet, to be healthy, to rest well, eat well, and be together. So thank you so much for this moment. And again, if you all ever need us, please contact us here. I'm 2 blocks away. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gray, and thank you for your service to Alzheimer's, and your comments are well taken.
Thank you.
Now we have a special presentation from Parks and Rec Department. J.P. Kraft and Deputy Director Donald Russell will talk about the Wildcats and Friends.
Well, good evening, everybody. Certainly appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you tonight about a great program, but I'd like to start by telling you that, Tullahoma has a very rich baseball history. Obviously, all sports in town are good, but baseball has really produced an inordinate large amount of Major League Baseball players through the high school baseball program. And so we put together a program last year with their input and some of Parks and Rec input to create a program for them to be able to give back to the community and the small fields in the Little League groups that grew them. And so we came up with this idea called Wildcat and Friends. And what we did is got with these players and we orchestrated a very large baseball clinic that all of our local Little Leaguers, not just Tullahoma, but all the kids from around the area could come and learn some Major League skills from Major League players, give them a little bit of edge in their game. And so, with all events, we have some really great sponsors that help us put this on, not just the players, but also the Tullahoma Sports Council, Rogers Insurance Group. Obviously, Parks and Rec had a hand in that. Logoware helped us with some really cool shirts. And this year was our second time doing it. We had 5 Major League players that came out, and on your desk up there is a baseball that was signed by all those players for each of you. They wanted to make sure that we gave something back to the folks that support our programs. So that was their idea, to make sure that y'all knew how much they appreciated the support that y'all give to the recreation programs. The players that were able to participate this year was Gary Phillips, Jordan Sheffield, Justice Sheffield, Brian Morris, and DeJuan Brazelton. I'm from Tampa, so that was a big one for me. DeJuan was a very good pitcher for us down there when I lived there. And like I said, all these players came through our high school program, and that's pretty extraordinary for us to have that in our pocket. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to our director, J.P. Kraft.
I just want to thank you guys for supporting us. Events like these couldn't take place without those sponsors that Lyle mentioned. Also our grounds crew, Ian Anderson, Tom Foster, Ben Ebert, Jeff Pollard, Trenton Parton, and John Paulson work hard every day, but they work hard especially on the days we have special events. So, Mr. Mayor, we'd like to present you this to hang in your office or at City Hall, wherever you'd like to put it.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Thank you guys very much.
Got one more.
Sorry.
Again, thank you for supporting the Love to update. Be nice to update the mayor's office. Thank you very much. How many kids participated in your event?
This year we had 80 that came out, and the weather couldn't have been better.
A little better than last year.
It was much better.
Okay, very good. Well, thanks again for what you do. At this time, I'd like to recognize any citizen that would like to address the board on anything that's under the purview of the board. So now we'll move right into the approval of the agenda. We've had the agenda now for 4 or 5 days, so need a motion to approve the agenda. Motion from Barry, seconded by Mann. Any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll vote to approve the agenda as presented. That passes 6-0. Thank you. With that, we'll move into reports from the Aldermen. Ms. Alderman Wilson, we'll start with you tonight.
Thanks, Mayor. I had the privilege of attending the Veterans Day ceremony over at South Jackson Performing Arts Center Friday. It was really, really special. All of the speakers were just amazing, and there were people that sang, and it was really nice. And of course, it's always a pleasure of listening to Commander Randall Gordon speak. He's truly an eloquent speaker, and his message really hit home. It was well attended, and it's always a pleasure to be able to attend that day. And then also on Friday, I had the pleasure of attending Chief Williams' reception, and it was I wanted to make sure to be able to tell him, job well done, and we are very lucky to have had him. And also to welcome Mr. Chase Sons as the interim chief. So that's it. Thank you.
Alderman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week, I also attended the Veterans Day service at South Jackson. It was a great turnout. Many of our local veterans and heroes showed up, and I just want to take this time to thank them all again for their willingness to serve, protect, and defend our wonderful country and all that it stands for. Also, I wanted to mention our now former police chief, Jason Williams, who resigned a week and a half ago. I'd like to publicly thank him for his dedication and commitment to our police department, for helping to keep our citizens safe and serving the city of Tullahoma well. I wish him all the best in whatever he decides to do next, and I want to congratulate Interim Chief Chase Sons and Interim Deputy Chief Jason Kennedy on their appointments. I know they will both do an amazing job and make us all very proud. That's all I got.
Alderman Mathis.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I attended the Johnny Bench event that we had at the high school that the Sports Council put on. Very well attended, very well handled as far as organization. He is a special individual, got hands about the size of a bucket, but he's really something to talk to, and I had the opportunity to do that. Another thing has come up to me because I've been asked by many individuals in our city is that we have an individual in our city who is a general, or was a general, in the Army. He is the only general in the city in the history of Tullahoma who grew up here. And I think we need to do something special, and that's Alan Harris. We need to do something special for him, if it's nothing else other than naming something for him or something, because he is very, very, very worthy of whatever we can do. He's outstanding. I had the opportunity to coach him when he was in high school, but he is now a general. He's a retired general, outstanding individual, and something we need to look at and make sure that we can do something for him.
Very well taken. Alderman Mathis, when you use your mic next time.
Okay.
Should have told you so.
Somebody.
Alderman Berry.
Thank you, Mayor. Jerry doesn't usually have comments, so when he does say it, it is important. I agree. It would be great to find something to do. I also attended the Veterans Day celebration, along with, I think, the majority of us were there. And that is always, it's humbling and sobering, but you also walk out of there proud to be an American, proud to be a Tullahoman. You hear about the stories, and anytime you get to hear Commander Gordon speak, I mean, you don't run into many people who are Harvard business graduates and test pilots, and I mean, it's just, the guy's amazing, but he's just got a way of getting you ramped up. I do believe, and she may not want to say anything, but I think since we last met, Anna, did you get married? Did I hear that right? So congratulations to you. For those who don't know, she gives the news out here, so this is my opportunity to put her on now. But congratulations, congratulations. James is a good man. Also like to thank Chief Williams, attended his as well. You know, he and I came in same time. I came in, I think, August 19, he was September of 19. And I think it's a testament to his time here and his leadership that we have people in the ranks of our department like Chase and Jason who are ready to step in and take us to that next level. So thank you to Chief Williams. Thank you to Chase and Jason for stepping up in the interim here. It's a big job. You got a lot on your shoulders. I think that's a incredible choice by our city administrator, who just keeps knocking it out of the park. So thank you for that. I'm going to be just a minute longer here. I had a super exciting weekend. It was probably one of the coolest things I've gotten to do as an alderman, and also probably one of the coolest things like in my life. It's like every child's dream come true. I got to spend Saturday night with B Shift, Sergeant George Dotson, Patrolwoman Candace McGee, Kayla Branham, and Patrolman Travis Dixon. And I'm still recovering. I don't know how they do the shifts that they do. It is, I'm going to read, I didn't realize it at the time that I was riding around with a employee of the month. And I had some stuff that I was going to say, but I think what we have in our packets here really sums up not just Kayla, but the entire shift and the entire department. And this was a November Employee of the Month. It was submitted by Investigator Jessica Taylor. Let me put my glasses on. I'd like to nominate Officer Kayla Branham, B. Knights, for Employee of the Month. I do not work with Kayla. However, her work ethic is noticeable through her reports. It is apparent that Officer Branham keeps herself busy on night shift by self-initiating activity and deterring crime through arrests that are made. Officer Branham demonstrates pride in her work, and it shines through in her detailed reports. Officer Branham participates in volunteer opportunities and the police department hosts, such as National Night Out, which shows she cares for the community she serves. Her interaction with the public has always been positive, and she deserves to be recognized for her great work. And I'll tell you, that's exactly what I saw. It wasn't just a group of people who showed up, put their boots on and their uniforms and showed up to a job. It was a family with members who truly care about what they do. They are passionate about our community, and they also have compassion for our community. And I saw that in the stops that we made. I saw that in the interactions, the way that they interact with each other. So I am I'm embarrassed that I've been on the board for 4 years and I've never taken the opportunity to do that before. And I'm slightly embarrassed I haven't done it with our other departments. I said I was going to do it with, I won't say which one, but I was talking with one of the officers and I said, I need to do this with fire as well. And they said, well, you know, second responder sleepovers are cool, but I won't say who said that. But I think that what I experienced with these officers is true for everyone in our city. It's our staff that makes this town work. I think a lot of times we get in the way and others get in the way, and we're here to support. And so I'm extremely proud to be what little part I am of this. And thank you to the officers for letting me be a little part of their family this past Saturday. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Mattis.
It has been. That's all right. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would just like to reiterate what all of my colleagues have said up here. It's a proud day to be a Tullahomian, and I couldn't be more appreciative of just having the honor of sitting in this seat and representing you, even if you didn't vote for me and even if you don't support me now. I believe that Tullahoma is headed in a positive direction, and the future is very, very, very bright. And the changes that have been made, although change is sometimes hard, it's necessary. And I feel like you have never had more equal opportunity as a Tullahomian than you have ever had before now. And as to our veterans, it wouldn't even be possible if it wasn't for them. And unfortunately, I didn't get to attend the Veterans Day ceremony on Friday. It was the first one in 4 years I've had to miss due to a new position. And I will tell you that the place that I was at, they also requested Colonel Gordon to speak, and he sent somebody, and she told us that they had 28 local Veterans Day festivities that he was specifically requested to speak at. So that ought to just tell Tullahoma, what kind of relationship we have there, and how lucky we were to have him speak at our event. With that said, it's been a long time since we've done anything. As we do it every now and then as a community, where we get everybody together. We do something in the summer at the pool, but I'd like to give a task to see if we maybe can put something together. I'd like to do for employees in this board, a citywide appreciation, maybe a dinner, Merry Thanksmas of sorts, to give thanks and to, again, try to boost this morale and continue to bring all the departments together, so that we can just continue to learn from each other and boost each other and be thankful that we have such a great, intellectually talented bunch of people willing to serve the city of Tullahoma. And like I said, I just couldn't be more proud to be a part of it. As far as anything else, Mr. Mayor, I think I'm going to save it.
Thank you. Thank you. Alderman Mathis.
That's right. That's all right. You got proof.
Everyone has mentioned the Veterans Day celebration. I had the honor of introducing the program and closing the program. But what struck me with the program was it was a celebration, celebrating veterans, but it was a solemn celebration, recognizing the solemnity of what they have done to serve us. So, as all of you have recognized in your reports, it was a very fitting ceremony, and yes, we were very fortunate to get Colonel Gordon when we did. So, anyway, that's all I have. This time, we will turn to our city attorney for his report.
Thank you. I'm a veteran, and I was very proud to serve our country in the United States Army. And I, again, enjoyed the celebrations in South Jackson last Friday, and it's one of probably the last 40 years that I've attended those, and I've always been very, very thankful for the opportunity to live in this country and live in this wonderful state. And this town, I appreciate the opportunity to have done that, to have participated. The thing that struck me about that, however, is how few of us there are now. As I looked around the room when people stood up, 40 years ago, almost everybody in that auditorium were outside, because we used to have them outside at the flagpole. Almost all of them are veterans, and we're diminishing quickly. But those of us that are still here are still enjoying the fruits of our labors from times past. As city attorney, I've been working on a lot of things for the city. As you know, I deal with all of y'all on an individual basis often. I do research for you and answer questions for you. A lot of those never come to fore here because they're things that don't need to be discussed publicly, because we either resolve them or things that not of great significance, but things that you all are concerned with as members of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And I'm very thankful that you give me the opportunity to do that. We're researching several issues now for you and for the board as well, and we'll report to you as time requires them when we finished our research. I guess you know it's on the agenda that we finally finished the acquisition of rights-of-way for the sidewalks of the Kings Lane Avoca Road project. And we're going to be letting the contracts. It's taken us about 3 years to do that, and Mr. Taylor and his staff and I have worked diligently to get all those signatures. I want to thank them for all that, because we need those badly in that part of town. J.P. Kraft and I and Sue and others are working on finalizing the plans for developing the downtown plantings here in Tullahoma, and very soon we'll be bringing that to the board. Alderman Mann and I have been working on getting some donations from private individuals to supplement the $15,000 that the Tullahoma Noon Rotary Club is devoting to that enterprise. Hopefully we'll get that underway. JP says we can do it maybe during the fall planting season. I surely hope so, because hopefully we can replace a lot of trees that have not grown well and have more growing in the spring. There are some matters that we need to discuss relative to the charter. I've spent much of today looking over the proposed charter that's in our packet of matters that the agenda addresses tonight, and when we get to that point, I'll have some comments for y'all. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Turn it over to our city administrator, Mr. Quick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I've heard a lot of you speak about how thankful you are for the city employees that are committed to what we are doing on a daily basis. And never more is that am I aware of that now, is when I work with these folks on a daily basis. It is amazing to me the amount of pride that goes into wearing that logo on shirts, on jackets, on hats that our people are showing. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for all that they do for the city of Tullahoma. It's truly amazing. I can't let this go past. We talked about the Wildcats and Friends. I don't think that would be possible if it wasn't for Coach Jerry Mathis and for all that he has done to start the baseball history and program in this town. So I want to say, Coach, thank you for doing that. Also, I want to say thank you to Chief Williams. He and I have had some really good conversations, and I told him how much I really appreciated all that he has done for the city. He entered at a very difficult time. Then you add COVID on top of that. I think he has done a very good job of leading our men and women with integrity and with character, and I made sure that he understood that. I've heard several of you talk about the Veterans Day event, and it was truly amazing. It's the first one I've been able to attend, but all of that wouldn't happen if it wasn't for Jordan Wilkins. Jordan, I want to say thank you. All of that happens because Jordan starts getting on the phone, starts coordinating, and starts putting that plan together. So when you see these kind of events for Tullahoma, I always know that Jordan has been the one behind spearheading that. And I just want to say thank you publicly for all that you've done for us. Christmas City event, just so happens about a month ago, I assigned that project to Robin and a few others within our admin department. So we are hoping to have that announcement for you soon. We're just trying to coordinate around all the different departments' holiday parties. So hopefully we'll have that. But great idea. That's definitely what we're working on. I had said that I was going to be attending TCMA last month, the fall seminar. Unfortunately, I was unable to due to a family illness, so I apologize for not being able to report on that. And speaking with Jordan, it sounded like it was a great opportunity of learning, and Jordan has been able to provide me with various things that he learned from that meeting, so I will be able to take care of that. We had downtown trick-or-treating, which was great. Again, that's the first time I've been down here in about 4 years to see the amount of people that were out trick-or-treating. It was truly something, and to see the churches, to see the businesses look forward to that type of event, it was really good. The children were having a blast. I appreciate the fire department bringing out, what do we call him? Not pup dog, what do we call him? Fire pup. I got you. Sorry about that. 7-foot-tall fire pup. So we were able to have that. Charles and Lori and I were able to meet with different food truck vendors over the course of the last couple of days last week. We had one during the day, had one more in the evening. We have a food truck ordinance that's coming to you soon for a study session, and it was very important to us that we were able to sit down with them, understand their concerns and what we can do to meet those concerns as we're putting an ordinance together that serves not only the vendors, but serves our business owners and our residents as well. So I look forward to working with you through that on Monday the 20th. Was able to do a media relations seminar. Mayor Noes and Jordan and I all attended that virtually, and I think in speaking with Mayor Noes, there were some really good comments and good advice and instruction that came from that, and I know we're going to put that together as we look to create a communications team for our town in case of any kind of catastrophic event. So look for that soon. Tomorrow, Mayor's Youth Council will be meeting. I think Alderman Berry may be joining us as well. That'll be at 4 o'clock. They are interested in starting the alderman, the student alderman to be able to come and participate in meetings. So we'll be getting more information to you on that as well. The Noon Rotary Club is going to be participating in No Trash November in Tennessee, which is a statewide event, and that's going to be next Saturday. We'll be doing Rotary Club, the downtown trash pickup, and that's going to be we'll meet at Caboose Park at 8 o'clock, and we'll get that going. Development. You have in front of you a visual drawing of the building that we're looking to put forward out at Johnson Lane. I want to say thank you to Randy Edwards and to his team at Tullahoma High School, his students who went and put all of this together for you. You all should have a copy of that. What we're doing now is we're just going to put this out to bid. We want to see what those costs look like and then be able to come back to you and share what that looks like. So just want to make sure you see that. We'll be getting that out tomorrow, and then we'll be able to have more financial information to share with you on that. A couple of last things. Over the last couple of weeks, I've had some time to meet with different developers, both in town and out of town, people wanting to share ideas that they have for Tullahoma, not only just growth, but maybe some downtown revitalization that we've all talked about and look forward to. So I'm very anxious to meet more with these gentlemen and to find out more about their plans and what they would like to see for Tullahoma. The Planning Commission has a new attorney. You have asked, the board and the Planning Commission has asked, or Planning Committee has asked for a attorney that would be able to help with any kind of planning and code zoning issues. You have a bio of Mr. Sam Edwards, who is going to be at our study session next Monday night for our food truck and for our street cut study session, and he's going to have information that he's going to be able to share, but I wanted to make sure you had a chance as a board to meet with him. So if you look, I think his bio is very impressive and speaks for itself. Next month, I will be coming to you. We have had an overage in our paving of about $51,000 on the streets of Rutledge Avenue and Ashley Court. When we went to try to pave the for lack of a better term, the ground underneath was not strong enough to handle that. And so we had some damage from the trucks that were in there, so we had to have them pulled out. So we'll be bringing an amended adjustment to this, asking for transfer of funds. It'll come from accrued interest. So it's not going to be anything that's going to have to come out of another budget item, but it's additional interest income is what we would call that. We're also going to be bringing to you 2 new projects for consideration for paving, which will be the annex building where Planning and Codes is located right now. That parking lot is in desperate need of not only repair, but almost replacement. And then the area that is going to be serving the TUA electric cars where they'll come and recharge, over there where the bookshelf is located, that is also in dire need of repaving. So we'll bring that information to you and have more details, but just wanted to give you a heads up. Last, we've had several new hires. I wanted to highlight 3 of them today. Jason Ray has taken the role of Assistant Director of Finance / Treasurer, and he came on board about 2.5 weeks ago and has already paid dividends in being able to produce that information. I know that Alderman Berry has really pushed for as far as being able to understand our cost and how that's going to look over a certain period of time versus our tax revenue. So we'll be getting a lot more information to you about that. Chris Hoffmeister started today. He is our now boots on the ground IT support specialist. So today he went around and met with different department heads and different departments. That's going to help us make sure that we're doing all that we can to support our people with the proper technology. And last, he's already been introduced, but I want him to come forward and talk to you for just a minute. Our interim police chief, Chase Sons, when this decision came about, I looked at a lot of things, listened to a lot of comments from patrolmen, people within the community, and I think Chase Sons is an outstanding person to run our police department in the interim while we get prepared to put together a national search. Chase, I just want you to be able to come and introduce yourself to us and make sure everybody knows the face and the name.
Good evening. I just wanted to start by saying thank you to each and every one of you for having faith in me and to do this job. I want to thank Mr. Quick. I know you had a tough decision to make. I appreciate that. I want you all to know this is not a position that I take lightly. I know what is expected of a police chief. And I want you to know that I intend to work very hard to move this place forward. There's a couple of announcements that I do want to make, some long overdue appointments. It's going to be promoting, all of you are familiar with Officer Willie Young. Earlier today, he was promoted to the rank of sergeant, so that was well overdue. So if you see him out, congratulate him, thank him for his service. It's an outstanding gentleman. Mr. Quick has given me the authority to place an interim chief, or an interim deputy chief, to support the role of the interim chief at this current time. I have selected Jason Kennedy for that. I advised Mr. Quick, if I was going to serve under any other man, that would be who I would serve under if it wasn't myself doing the job. I have full faith in his abilities in that role, and again, just thank you all for your support, and if you have any questions of me, you guys know where I'm at.
Real quick, as an addition, Sergeant Young is going to be remaining in the SROs. He is sergeant over our entire SRO program, so he will not be coming out of that position, but will be providing additional support for those SROs in the community.
Just click the X.
That is my report. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Question, thank you for your report. Very thorough. Okay, at this time we'll move into our agenda for the evening. First on the item is our consent agenda, which is simply the minutes from the October 23rd meeting. Got a motion from Barry, seconded from Alderman Wilson. Ready to vote. Agenda is approved 6-0. For the unfinished business, we have, excuse me, my voice is going away. For the unfinished business, we have ordinance number 1609. It's an ordinance to amend chapter on building codes, electrical codes, gas codes, housing codes, plumbing codes, mechanical codes, residential codes, energy code, conservation code, international property maintenance, building utility, and the municipal code of Tullahoma. Let's pass it on second reading. Need a motion? Barry, seconded by Mann. Any questions? Ready to vote? Passes 6-0. And there's no other unfinished business, so we'll move into the new business for tonight. Again, in order to amend some codes. Ordinance number 1615 is the fire code and authority at fire, so I need a motion. Ordinance from Barry, seconded by Mathis. And this is for passage on the first of two readings. Any questions? Ready to vote? Passes 6-0. 5-1, excuse me. Was that an abstention?
Yes, I abstained.
5-0 with one abstention. Resolution number 1971, a resolution regarding the attendance by the city administrator at executive sessions. That was crafted by Alderman, by city attorney. So we need a motion from Mathis, Barry, seconded by Mathis. And background on that, I'll go to the city attorney.
You'll recall during our last administrator's tenure that there's some issue regarding whether or not she was enabled or entitled to come to our executive sessions, and we checked with Municipal Technical Advisory Service, and they advised us that unless we had a resolution authorizing a city administrator to attend those sessions, it was improper for them to do so. So based upon my conversation with members of the board and with Mr. Quick, we brought this up at a previous meeting. We have now prepared a resolution that would enable him to be at these meetings upon invitation, so that if we ask him to come, a majority of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen can ask him to be in attendance at those meetings. And that's the purpose of this resolution. And of course, that means that he's not required to come to all of them unless we do ask him to. It's not to be, it doesn't have to be by a formal vote of the board. It can be by just consensus among you all in advance of the executive session. I hope you all will enact this. I think we need that. Mr. Quick's intricately involved in all the things that the city does, and I think that it'd be a benefit to him and us to be at those meetings.
Thank you for the background. Alderman Almar, please recognize.
Yes, I believe at the time that this question was asked, I was the one who posed the question and brought up the fact that it was inappropriate for our then city administrator to be attending unless we had officially designated her with the right to attend. The only issue that I see is how we would go about by a majority vote as invitation. I'm fine with just kind of making it a blanket unless we say that he should not be there. But I think we have to delineate on whether or not this would make him a public officer, because I believe, Mr. Worsham, correct me if I'm wrong, there was that delineation that if we found them to be a public officer of our corporation, then they were in fact entitled. Was that?
Actually, there was some language that we looked at that made it a little bit questionable as to what their role would be in that, and that's what kind of prompted all this. I don't think that's an issue now, and the way that we decided to do this resolution would mean that I could just poll the board to see whether or not they would want Mr. Quick to come to executive session. We wouldn't have to have a formal meeting for that, and then we could just do that way. So we could
Mr. Mayor, one more
because a lot of times these are usually advanced, announced in advance, so we'd have some time to do that and check with him about that.
Thank you for that. Also, along with this, since we're making that change, I would also note that something that we've done incorrectly for quite some time as well is even though these would be executive sessions and would not be subject to the public being present, it's my understanding that they are still subject to some provisions of Robert's rules, such as agendas are to be published and there should be kept meetings, even if those meetings, minutes of the meetings, even if the minutes are sealed. According to what I've read and I see you shaking your head, from what I've read at MTAS, is there are generally minutes of executive sessions held. I would like for more information maybe about that, because I also think that is something that if we're supposed to be doing that I would like to see that we do that. And there should be some information that we have for those meetings, even if it's sealed, that we keep. Same thing with study sessions as well. Those are public meetings, but we also have not been doing minutes for those, and we should probably start. So this is just a couple of things that I would like to see that we start doing.
I'd like to make one comment about that, if that's it. We can certainly do that, and that's fine. However, they're not considered to be meetings under the definition of meetings in either our charter or the Tennessee Municipal Code. But however, we can do that if you wish to do it. I don't think it's mandatory, but it's not a bad idea.
Okay, Alderman Hallmark, I understand that you made an amendment to the motion to include in the resolution that the invitation will be a general invitation to the city administrator unless otherwise asked not to attend.
I'm fine with that. Instead of having to poll the board, I would just make the resolution that unless polled otherwise, or we've given, there should be a blanket acceptance of the city administrator at these meetings unless otherwise stated.
I'll second the amendment. Any questions on the amendment? Let's vote on the amendment to include open invitation to the city administrator unless otherwise specified. Ready to vote on the amendment? Okay. On there.
is it just an invitation or is it mandatory? Like, are we saying, hey, you can come, or are we saying it's mandatory that you come unless we tell you no? We're using the word invitation, but what does that mean?
I would say blanket invitation. I think that he may have reasons if he knows, if he knows what's on the agenda, he may know of conflicts that would preclude
Non-compulsory
him.
invitation, okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that wasn't.
Yeah. I don't think we should make it compulsory considering his conflicts.
Right.
Got a motion from Mathis, seconded by Wilson. Ready to vote on the amendment? Passes 6-0. Now we have the original motion as amended. Need a second. Motion is amended, passes 6-0. Thank you for the amendment. Resolution number 1972, a resolution to accept the public entity partners property conservation reimbursement grant in the amount of $4,000. If you'll notice in your packet, this is because we put cameras in D.W. Wilson and city stamps, and this will go toward those cameras. The motion from Barry, seconded by Mann. Any discussion? Ready to vote. Passes 6-0. Motion number 1973, a resolution to support amendment of the city charter. Need a motion? Motion from Barry. Seconded by Mathis. Alderman, you recognize?
Yes, this was where I had potentially several amendments. I'd like to go through them individually to add into the city charter. The first one I've already handed out to you, but I've not given it to Mr. Worsham. Give me 1 second. Okay, 1 second. And then here is, this is the interest guidelines. This is the amendment. This is just information, but I don't know if you need that. Do you want to vote on this as one amendment? Here, let me have that other portion that I gave you.
Do you want to vote on this as one amendment?
This is one amendment. I guess I need to make the motion and get a second before we discuss, but I make a motion to add in a provision concerning the creation of an ethics committee into the charter. I believe it should go in governing body. I think I have to have a second just for us to discuss.
So it's ethics.
Yeah, ethics committee. And then if I could get a second, I'll give you guys a little more background while you're reading. Mr. Mayor, may I have the floor?
Can we finish reading before you go?
Sure, yeah, whatever you choose to.
A motion by Alderman Almacher, seconded by Wilson. Alderman Oliver, your motion, introduce.
I'm going to give everybody about 30 seconds to just finish reviewing, and then I'm going to give you some background. And then I will read it into the mic for the public. Okay, so to begin, I did a little research on this. Right now, we have ordinance number 1349. I had Mr. Quick pull this today. This is what currently governs our ethical procedures. It's our current ordinance to adopt a code of ethics. That code of ethics is required, as we know, by Tennessee Code Annotated 8-17-103. When this was first passed by the state legislature, MTAS basically created a model code in which pretty much the majority of municipalities adopted. We were one of those municipalities who basically just adopted that model code. There were a couple of options in the model code. One was just to have an ethics officer, and the other was an option to have an ethics advisory board, or a committee, in other words, which would take some of it off of you would still have an ethics officer, but he would then be able to relay information to a board where he would not ultimately have one decision. So the ethics officer generally, and the ethics board, whichever one you have, would investigate and determine merit for ethical questions regarding misconduct for those who are not on the governing body. So that might be an employee, or it might be a political appointee, such as a mayor's appointment to a specific board, or this board's appointment, maybe a planning commission member or somebody like that. It does say in the state law and in the code that we actually have to be the one to determine whether there is merit whenever there is a question of somebody on this particular body committing an act of malfeasance. So taking all of that into consideration and looking at our previous ordinance, the only thing that I would say is we would have to change this by ordinance as well, but I believe this is something so hearty and important that we probably need to write it into our charter. And so the only thing that I'm really changing is how this would look as far as in a committee fashion. So the ethics committee, this is my proposal. The City of Tullahoma shall adopt a code of ethics pursuant to TCA 8-17-103, which we have. The city attorney is designated as the ethics officer and shall issue written opinions when requested on whether certain conduct would comply with the code of ethics and other applicable law within 30 days after a meeting. The city attorney is designated to receive and investigate complaints about officials and employees who are not members of the governing body and present such findings to the ethics committee, which shall meet no less than quarterly. All members of the ethics committee shall be paid by the general fund $150 per meeting, not to exceed 12 in one calendar year. The attorney may request that the governing body designate another person or entity to act as ethics officer when he or she has a conflict of interests. The ethics officer or designated attorney shall be a member of the Ethics Advisory Committee and shall schedule the meetings. The other members shall be the city administrator, an elected BOMA representative, a citizens representative chosen by the BOMA, and the mayor. The BOMA representative and citizens representative shall be elected every 2 years after the election. Since only the BOMA can determine merit against one of its own governing body members, merit will be determined first by the Ethics Committee and then placed on the agenda by the BOMA representative at the first meeting following such a finding. The BOMA shall have the authority to censure or discipline as according to the charter. Due to the sensitive nature and potential liability of the actions discussed, these meetings will be conducted as executive sessions with minutes taken and sealed, with privilege being held by any subject accused. Any person accused of an ethics violation shall have the right to a 10-day notice, the right to attend such meeting and compel witnesses, and the right to an appeal to the full Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And then a caveat down at the bottom, because many municipalities already have personnel policies that deal with some of the same behaviors regulated by a code of ethics. This section provides that when a violation of the code of ethics also constitutes a violation of personnel or civil service policy, rule, or regulation, the violation would be handled as a violation of the personnel provisions rather than as a violation of the code of ethics, meaning if it's something that Mr. Quick can handle or a department head can handle, they will continue to handle that as you know, regularly they would have done. But if it's an appointee or it's an ethics, something against this board even, it would start at the ethics committee and then be brought. So it's just another layer to where we're not always having to hear that and air out these things if there's no merit, and also to, you know, to protect some of the sanctity of the city of Tullahoma, and also make sure we get it right. We just want to make sure we get it right and take some of that weight off of our ethics officer here and having to determine all of these things and do all of this hedge work on his own.
May I comment? Recognize City Attorney, Mr. Worsham.
I think this is a good move in the right direction. You might recall that I've mentioned to you all before that I felt like our code of ethics was inadequate in order to address many of the issues that arise here. I think this is a good step in the right direction. And I don't certainly question some of the provisions in here, but I do believe that it probably should be enacted in ordinance. I think that have just a brief requirement in our charter that we have a code of ethics and an ethics officer would be adequate, rather than add all this that Ms. Almacher has put in here. Not that I take issue with it, but I think it'd be better off if it were in ordinance, because we can't change the charter very easily, but we can change our ordinance as we need to as we work through this. Since I haven't seen this until tonight, I can't really comment on the legality of all of these things. I don't think there are any of them maybe illegal, but they might be improper. And so I would suggest that we just have a very brief mention in our charter that we will have a code of ethics pursuant to Tennessee Code annotated section 817-103, and a very brief description of that, but not all this detail stuff. I think we need to study that more carefully, have more time to do that than to put it into our charter that we're now trying to enact rather quickly so that we can get it to the legislature early next year. That's just my opinion and my suggestion.
Thank you, Councilor. Let me comment. Thank you for the effort to bring that to us. I don't think I got a copy of what you read, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm a slow reader. It would be my suggestion that we allow some time for us to digest this and have our city attorney review this, propose an ordinance to include the things that you feel appropriate to be in this ordinance. So rather than adopting it, as you say, into our charter, I would suggest postponing it until we've had a chance for this council to review this issue. Barry.
Do you see me?
Barry.
Yeah, I think it belongs in ordinance. I don't think that we need to postpone this. I think because the amendment here is to add it to the charter, right? So we can vote no here with instruction to revise our ordinance. And I've got questions that I'm going to vote no as a charter amendment. Like, we don't have any other boards that we pay people. Yeah. No, I think this belongs in the ordinance. I'll vote no to this, but I do think that we can talk to that ordinance.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I think I'd love to see this happen. I think this is what we've needed for some time. It's better than the current system we've got, which we've seen is flawed and doesn't work. But I think, you know, we need to try this out. Ordinance is the way to do that, because if we tried this, there were some things we needed to alter. It didn't quite work perfectly. It's going to be a whole lot harder to change, like Mr. Worsham said in the charter. So I'd like this. I'd like to see us do this as an ordinance, but not as a charter revision.
Okay, so just drawing your attention to section 10 real quick on page 4 of 6 of that MTAS. This is where I got most of the language. This section provides methods for bringing and investigating complaints of violations of code of ethics. The city attorney is designated as the ethics officer and may issue written opinions when requested on whether certain conduct would comply with the code of ethics and other ethical law. The city attorney is designated to receive and investigate complaints. If you go down, this is where it says, the position could be compensated or uncompensated, although it is unlikely many individuals would be willing to serve if the position is not compensated. Another acceptable alternative would be to establish a board of ethics to perform these functions. So in other words, MTAS is kind of cautioning you, nobody really wants to do these things, but...
Where were you at with that last piece?
In section 10, about halfway down.
What there's numbers there beside it? B, C, 3, 4.
If a municipality, it's on page 4 of 6 in this MTAS thing. I think it's on page. Section 10, do you see that? It's about halfway down. If a municipality chooses to do this, it would probably want to provide for the appointment of the ethics officer after each municipal election. So that's where I got the after every 2 years. The position could be compensated or uncompensated, although it is unlikely many individuals will be willing to serve if the position is not. I will make a friendly amendment to my motion. I just wanted to draw your attention to that, because that's where I got that information. I will make a friendly amendment that we can just provide briefly. I do think that does need to be in our charter to comply, because that is a state law provision that we are supposed to have some sort of ethics advisory officer, committee person. So maybe a brief mention of TCA, I believe it's 8-14-
817-103.
Thank you, 817-103, and that we have adopted a code of ethics by ordinance, and as well as a prescribed ethics officer / board. So would that be amenable? Just most every other charter has that in it.
Do you have examples of other charters that have that in it?
Just about every charter has mention of it, because after they made that a state-wide law, charters mention that they have an ethics. It's every governing document, actually, in most organizations have mention of an ethics.
Yeah, you got an A in contract law. I just got an A in ethical leadership. Yeah, so what is your friendly amendment? Is the amendment to add a section that says the city shall adopt an ethics ordinance in accordance with TCA XXXXX?
Perfect, yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'll second. So are you withdrawing your first?
Yeah, I'll withdraw the first. Just a brief mention that we are in compliance with 8-17-103 Code of Ethics requirement, and we have adopted.
Or we can adopt the MTAS Model Code of Ethics.
Well, we already have, but see, that's adopted by ordinance. So what we're saying is, well, all we're adopting in the charter is just brief mention, and then at the next meeting, we will bring back this for adoption by ordinance and discussion. But it gives you guys a heads up and the public a heads up of what's coming.
Don't we talk about ethics in here already?
I don't remember, honestly. I don't think so.
I'll second your motion. Do you have the language for that?
Add ethics committee to the charter briefly mentioning.
No.
No, just...
Say the city shall adopt an ethics ordinance in accordance with TCA.
8-17-103.
Just leave it blanket and open.
Say it again.
The city shall adopt an ethics ordinance in compliance with TCA whatever that
817-103.
817-103, period. Stop, and that should probably go, what section are you saying?
I thought it should go under governing body, because it's, unless you guys see somewhere else it should go.
I think that's right.
Section,
At the end of governing body?
yeah, section 13.
Yeah.
Section, yeah, governing body, section 13. Article 2, section 13.
Okay, that was,
I was voting where we have on page 58, under the section called form, we there,
If we just move it under,
and you got ordinances.
if we just move it under ordinances, then she doesn't have to renumber everything.
Yeah, then before ordinances, after abolishment, and that last.
all right.
The city shall adopt an ethics ordinance in compliance with TCA Code 817-103 to be added to the section 13 of the city charter.
Yep, no, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
That's the amendment to the charter as presented.
Yes.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Vote on the amendment. Passes 5-1.
All right, next.
Any further discussion on the charter?
Mayor.
Do we another one?
I do. Okay, I'd also like to, I'd like to make this clear to the public. One of the reasons I'm doing this way is whether or not these pass or make it into our charter, these are things that I'd like to see our city head in the direction of, and I think in the interest of public transparency, this was an appropriate place to have the discussion. If you choose to adopt it in the charter, we may do it that way, or we may also do this by ordinance as well. But if this board shall see fit to adopt it by charter, then so be it. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to revise the charter under governing body to address board appointments. And I shall read the caption. No member of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen may be paid by any other entity for attending meetings as a board representative. An outside entity may reimburse the city of Tullahoma for any monies paid to liaisons serving in their official duties. All boards and commissions served as appointed by the BOMA or the mayor shall receive compensation of $150 per meeting per appointment. It may be a potential violation of ethics for failure to perform duties as a liaison while accepting the stipend. No such violation shall occur unless at least 3 consecutive meetings are missed. And again, this is just for information purposes. Should we choose to adopt it by charter, great. If we choose to adopt it by ordinance, even better. But I would like to get some conversation going with this board.
I'll start the conversation with this board.
We need to see, she needs a second first.
Yeah, I will need a second for the conversation.
First and seconds. I'll start the conversation because this has arisen because I appointed myself to TUA. TUA pays a stipend to board members. Before I appointed myself to the board, to make it known that I was asked to serve on that board. I reviewed that with the city attorney and with the attorney for TUA, if there was a problem with me to serve on that board. I was advised that there was not. It's been confirmed by emails to each of you already that you have received. That's why this has arisen. The reason I appointed myself to that board, I felt that since I was on the board when it went from TUB to TUA, Alderman Mathis was on the board at that time, 2017. I had more experience with TUA than any other member on the board. Went on the board to best represent the city. I've done that to best of my ability, and I think you would agree. It's not always been in the best interest of TUA, the votes that I've cast on that board. It's in the best interest of the city of Tullahoma, the votes that I've cast. When you serve on the TUA board, you don't just go to a meeting. You're appointed to a committee. You have several committees, such as policy committee, rate committee. It requires a fair amount of time. Last year, I served on the policy committee with J.P. Northcutt as the chair. This year, I'm serving as the chair of the policy committee, along with the newly appointed Patty Dean on that committee. So it takes some time to do those things. In addition to that, serve on that committee, you have to get 12 hours of credit for training during your time you're on there. Some of that just takes time going to meetings out of town. You're compensated for your cost to go out of town, not for any other expenses. You're paid a stipend for the time for the board meetings that you attend. So that's why I'm on that board, and that's, in my opinion, in the best interest of the city. I'll certainly vote no on this recommendation. All my career recognized.
Well, if you're a proponent for you staying on that board, I don't understand why you'd vote no, because this doesn't keep you from staying on that board. In fact, this protects you, Mr. Mayor. This allows you to continue to serve on that board and continue to receive the pay. The issue is not with, for me, it's not with the fact that you're serving on the board, it's the fact that you appointed yourself to serve on a compensated board. And the appointment of yourself is truly the issue. If the board had made the appointment, we could not have anything to say about it. But the fact is, you openly use your power of appointing to financially gain. And whether or not you knew that to be true at the time does not exculpate the fact that you not only did it once, but you've done it twice. And when you filled out that information knowing that you were to receive payment, it was at that point that you should have declined the payment because of your interests as city mayor of the city of Tullahoma. Disclose that to this board and ask how you should handle it, or sought some other way to go about handling that. But I, at this point, believe that you should not double down. In fact, you should offer your resignation or at least give up your pay. I'm speaking, Mr. Mayor. Right now, I believe I have the floor.
I'll give a point of order.
What's your point?
This topic is not what we are discussing here. The discussion is on this ordinance. If we want to have the debate that you two are having on your own, we can have that at a later time, but I would ask that the board get back to the business at hand, which is considering this amendment that we have in front of us here. Well
taken. I will concede that point. Yes, that'd be a conversation for our ethics committee, should we create one. So back to this. One of the reasons that I did this is because I do find it unfair that some of you board members go above and beyond, and you serve and you go to these meetings, and those in the future will as well, and it costs a lot of money. Those of us who have been on this board for a while now know that we spend more than what we make. And if you're taking your time and you're going to these meetings, I'm not saying you should not be compensated. That compensation should just come from the city of Tullahoma. Now, it may be inappropriate for us to list the exact amount, or future boards may want to determine that like we do for salary. I don't think that's in our charter. But what I would say is that not one board should be compensated. You should. Number one, you should be asked if you're willing to serve, not just have a blanket appointment that you will serve, number one. And number two, if you're serving, your time should be compensated. And that is not because I'm trying to get compensated. Obviously, this will not affect this board. This could not and should not go into effect until after the next election. But if we were to adopt this in our charter and then also adopt it by ordinance afterwards, then this would affect the next incoming board to know that their time is valuable and that they will be compensated for their time in attending every meeting that they are appointed to for the city of Tullahoma.
Alderman Berry.
I'll keep it short. I think this is a conversation that we can have. I don't think it belongs in the charter, so I'll vote no to this. And then if we want to have these are things that belong in an ordinance, not a charter. So I'll vote no here, and then if you want to get with Administrator Quick to flesh out an ordinance later, then I'd be amenable to having the conversation then.
Just saying if there's any support for it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the amendment?
I do. I can't push it.
Alderman Wilson, you raised your hand. Do you have a point?
Thanks, Mayor. There is actually language in the charter about compensation. So it could fit in there. I mean, that would be a place for it.
Yeah, compensation
Section 109 on page 58.
It's talking about our salaries as board members. That's not talking about what she's talking about here.
But it is.
So.
What I'm talking about.
If you're kind of listing out kind of in a charter, like what it is, compensation for things like that, words, and I mean, it seems like that.
And it says
could go in there.
by ordinance, so it'd be exactly what we just kind of talked. Let's just set it by ordinance and be done.
Yeah, I'm fine with setting it by ordinance. Again, this is more for informational purposes to determine if any and what of this language we want. And if you don't want it in the charter, that's fine. Mr. Quick, I will withdraw my motion with the instruction to Mr. Quick. We'll add this as a potential ordinance amendment or a new ordinance regarding our appropriate salaries at the next meeting. And I have two more, and they do go in. I started with ones that might not go.
We're withdrawing.
I'm going to withdraw. Okay. This next one is specifically to the language of the vice mayor. Okay, as many of you know, in the city of Tullahoma, we have adopted a mayor-aldermanic charter. In TCA Title 6, Chapter 3, actually it's 1 through 4, those are all dealing with mayor-aldermanic charters. And I pulled this language specifically from that. Mayor pro tem is somewhat of an outdated a term, and it's not generally used in cities any further that operate under a mayor-aldermanic charter. In fact, it is most common that those operating under this type of charter have a vice mayor, which is essentially, it's pretty close to the same thing. But there is specific language that that is adopted under the state code in 6-3-107 under Board of Mayor and Aldermen, Cities and Towns, Vice Mayor, vacancies in office. And it says, the board shall elect an alderman to the office of vice mayor who shall serve as mayor when the mayor is absent or unable to discharge the duties.
We need a motion in a second.
Yes, I'm making a motion. I was given a little background. Thank you. I make a motion to revise the portion concerning the mayor pro tem in the charter to adopt the language consistent with TCA 6-3-107, and there is not a single word in this changed on the paper that I've given you. It is the language verbatim in 6-3-107, Vice Mayor, as it is pertaining to mayor aldermanic charters. The board shall elect an alderman to the office of vice mayor who shall serve as mayor when the mayor is absent or unable to discharge the duties of the mayor's office, and in case of a vacancy in the office of mayor until the next regular municipal election. One, by affirmative vote of the majority of the remaining members, the board shall fill a vacancy in the office of alderman for the unexpired term, but any portion of an unexpired 4-year term for alderman or mayor that remains beyond the next municipal election shall be filled by the voters at that election if the vacancy occurs at least 20 days before the latest time for filing nominating petitions for candidates in that election. All such elections by the board shall be made by a voice vote. On the calling of the roll, the tie vote occurs in filling a vacancy on the board. The presiding officer shall vote a second time to break the tie. And this is the language verbatim. So I make a motion to adopt this into the charter as it is stated in Tennessee Code Annotated.
Motion by Alderman Cruz, seconded by Wilson. Alderman Berry.
I'll be quick again. Tullahoma has a private charter, which means that there's no other charter in the state like ours. After a certain date, 1950-something, the state decided, hey, we're going to have a set of charters that if you want to form a new municipality, you'll choose from one of these charters. And the difference in those charters is ours, we can make changes like we're doing right now. And it only affects the city of Tullahoma because it's done by a private act. Now, if you have a mayor aldermanic charter, that TCA code that you're specifying here, if you want to make a charter change to that, the only way that happens is if you change Tennessee code, and then it affects every single mayor aldermanic who's adopted that charter in the state, right? So we do have a board of mayor and aldermen. So it is mayor aldermanic, but we also have a city administrator. So to say that we're just pulling this straight out of what the state says this mayor automatic government has, that's not quite accurate, because while we may have a hybrid style of that government, we are not what the state mayor automatic charter says there. So I am okay with the mayor pro tem. I don't believe that that's outdated. It is exactly what it's supposed to be. If the mayor's not able to make it, then we got somebody to fill in. If, heaven forbid, something happens, then we do what we do for anyone else on this board. We find a new member, and we replace that seat. And it doesn't have to be a member of the board, it can be somebody in the public. And I'd like to see it stay that way. I'll vote no to this.
Alderman Wilson.
It would make sense that if something happened that the mayor was not able to continue as mayor, that rather than appoint somebody fresh and new to the mayor position, that it would be somebody from the board that would fall into that role.
It still could be.
I mean, I don't understand what.
Under the current system, it still could be someone from the board, but it could also be someone from the public too. So if, right now, any of us, it could be any of us if something, God forbid, were to happen. So that's, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the way it is.
That is the way it is.
The mayor pro tem would serve until the board elected a mayor.
For 90 days.
But if you have a pro tem, anyone on this board could be selected to serve your position.
It does not have to be the pro tem.
If you have a vice mayor, then it goes to that vice mayor, and we don't have a choice anymore.
Correct.
Right.
Well, you still get to choose the vice mayor.
No, no, if it was a vice mayor, say for example, I was vice mayor, I would take his position. If I were mayor pro tem, y'all could select the one.
Yeah, but we choose who the vice mayor is the same way that we choose who the mayor pro tem is.
Well, I understand.
Maybe it turns out, maybe the vote didn't go how the vote was supposed to go, but we all just went along with it and let it happen. And then maybe something...
Is that what you're getting at?
Maybe something happened in that time and we decide, nope, that's not what we want. And I just use that as, I'm not being mean when I say that, but that is an example of, say it happened to have been me sitting there, right? And the majority didn't actually want me to be vice mayor, and now I end up in that seat by a very misfortunate turn of events, right? I like the power of the board being able to choose in the moment what's best for the city.
So, Daniel, just a little caveat, you're not determining whether or not I'm your mayor right now.
I know, so it wouldn't take effect in the next charter.
That's right. So here's the deal, but to me, it does streamline, and yes, I understand that we have a private act charter. The mayor aldermanic, that chapter 1 through 4, that was written as guidance for those with mayor alderman, yes, it was. And we also, Mr. Worsham, correct me if I'm wrong, have adopted much language out of that chapters 1 through 4 on specifically what the city can and cannot do, especially in that list of things that the city of Tullahoma has the authority to do that range everything from assessing and levying taxes all the way to the school sinking fund. All of that came specifically out of the state code in that chapter 1 through 4.
That didn't exist when our charter was written.
That came, it's been adopted, that came out of that chapters 1 through 4. I looked at it today, it's verbatim.
They took it from us.
You think they took it from us. So, no, this is language that many other, we do have a form of government, which is with a board of mayor and aldermen with an aldermanic charter, where our mayor, also the language in our current charter about the mayor's powers and duties. Do you think it's also a coincidence? It is also verbatim to the state code. I think not. They didn't copy the whole thing from us. So my only point in this is, again, you are not voting for me, is to streamline this for future boards. When they elect the vice mayor in a future board, then they will be electing, if something were to happen to the mayor. Because also, you think about it this way, at least that person would also be elected, have been elected by the people at some point. You wouldn't want to choose somebody that was not elected by the people, I wouldn't think. I don't think that would be right until the next election cycle. It's only until the next election cycle, then you have your vice mayor is set, and your city is never without representation. So this is what other cities have adopted. And I believe that it is appropriate, and Mayor Pro Tem is outdated. You may make your choice on whether or not to adopt it, but I believe that the language should be changed to fit what TCA says.
Alderman Mann. Excuse me, Alderman Mann.
So when we went through this charter process, both in the charter meetings and then in our study session, kind of the way I looked at it, I had a few simple guidelines. One, did this need to be updated because it's legally required? Two, is this, are we behind in some way with other cities and the state and where they want us to be? And three, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And, you know, and I'm not a historian on this, but I think the last time that this happened was in the 70s maybe, that the board voted in a new mayor. It happened to be, I believe, the mayor pro tem at the time did get voted in, but there were no issues, there was no controversy around it. I think that we're trying to make something out of nothing here, and, you know, again, I don't think this is something we need to be including in the charter.
Alderman Wilson, you're recognized.
I'm just, personally, I'm removing all of us from it, and I'm looking at this from, you know, how the public would view it. And, you know, if there were a mayor that was elected into office and something happened that he was unable to fulfill his duties, and let's say it was day 3 of being elected in, it seems kind of backwards to me that we would potentially have someone just from a citizen that we appoint into the mayor seat that would serve a 4-year term that was not elected. I mean, that just seems that seems backwards to me.
The charter is very clear currently as to the powers of the mayor pro tem. In the absence of the mayor's ability to perform his duty, the mayor pro tem assumes those responsibilities until the board elects the mayor. It's very clear in the charter as it's written today, it ain't broke.
Well, I know that it's clear that the mayor pro tem would fulfill the mayoral duties until another one was appointed. But what I'm saying is, let's say that on day 3 of a mayor being elected in by the citizens, something happened that he could not serve, then we potentially are saying, let's appoint somebody off the street to serve 4 years, because it would be until the next election cycle. So potentially, there'd be a citizen on the street that wasn't elected in for 4 years. That doesn't seem, I can't grasp that.
The board elects that person. It's clear the board elects that person.
2 or 4 years, that's a long time for somebody that wasn't elected.
I think it streamlines it to just say, this is the office of the vice mayor. Something happens to, I mean, it's like the vice president. I mean, the mayor pro tem, at what point does that kick into motion? I mean, God forbid something was to happen to make the mayor unavailable. But at what point does to me, what we have, we've not ever had to utilize it, thank goodness, but should we have to, you're going to find out just how inefficient it is. So that's the only point I'm making. If you guys don't want it, then that's fine.
If the mayor's like to say one thing, why would we even consider making a change?
Because the state, to make it in line with state law.
No, and us going by and saying that we're going to pull somebody from the citizenry to come up here and do it, that's no.
Well, that's what the current system is, that it would be somebody.
We're going to select that person. It's not going to be pulled from out there by the citizens.
Call the question.
Yeah.
Question's called.
Let's go.
Question's called. Ready to vote on the amendment?
Well, can we just vote on the amendment and not call the question?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, if everyone's good with that.
Amendment fails 4-2.
All right, I have one more that I know y'all are never going to pass, but I'm bringing it up anyways. You're on my board, Daniel. I'm pretty well know. Well, I was hitting request to speak. This is my last one. Again, just for discussion purposes. As a caveat down at the bottom, that is not, it wasn't supposed to be on this page, but I did want to put that in there for you. Daniel, we had that conversation the other day. As used in this chapter, shall is mandatory and may is permissive. Actually, state law dictates that in 6-1-102. Found that, Mr. Worsham, as far as the city code. So
I haven't seen any of these things, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, I apologize. Here, let me give you one of these.
In advance, which is make it look difficult for me to give you any opinion about it at all.
Well, we've only had one meeting, and I had to wait until we knew what they were proposing.
I'm not going to comment on any of these, because I'm just not as smart as you. I don't think I can digest all this and have an opinion about it that quickly or something like that.
They're all failing anyway.
I just feel like that was very disrespectful.
Let's just move on and go through this.
Yeah, I think we should.
We do have a lot of misogyny.
Wow, the misogyny is thick in here. Thank you. Okay, yes, removal of officers. So the reason for this is because I advocated to have this meeting tonight. Let me just caveat this, Mr. Mayor. I apologize. I advocated to have this meeting tonight considering that we are on a deadline in order for this to go before our state legislature, and so that we could continue to have conversations, because the last meeting was not televised, and I personally did not agree with it not being televised. So I am trying to have as much discussion tonight, whether or not any of it passes, about what my ideas were and some of the things that I thought might be welcome changes in the charter. And so this is for transparency purposes. If these things don't fail, or we want to have more time, I welcome somebody making a motion to pass this to the December meeting, or to change it by ordinance if it's something that is welcome. But this is for transparency purposes. So, removal of officers. Again, there are two things on this, but it's just the top one. So one of the things is, we can only do, according to the ethics provision that I gave you earlier from MTAS, that guidance, we can only do what is in our charter as far as discipline or discernment for whenever there is an an ethical violation. So one of the things that we can write in is potentially removal of officers. So I make a motion to potentially add this as recourse into our charter, removal of officers. The mayor or any mayoral appointee may be removed from office by the Board of Aldermen for crime or misdemeanor in office, for grave misconduct showing unfitness for public duty, or for permanent disability, by a majority vote of the other members of the board voting for such removal. The proceedings for such removal shall be upon specific charges in writing, after such being conferred upon by a majority vote of the Ethics Committee, which, with a notice stating the time and place of the hearing, shall be served on the accused or published at least 3 times on 3 successive days in a daily newspaper circulating in the city. The hearing shall be public, and the accused shall have the right to appear and defend in person or by counsel, and have process of the board to compel the attendance of witnesses in the accused's behalf. Such vote shall be determined by yeas or nays, and the names of the members voting for or against such removal shall be entered in the minutes. Immediately upon the vote for removal, the term of the accused shall expire, and the accused's official status, power, and authority shall cease without further action. Anyone removed under this section shall have the right of appeal through the local courts. And again, this would just be for obviously the most grave of misconduct, but for us to be able to potentially have teeth for our mayor and appointees.
Motion fails for lack of a second.
I think they're still reading.
I will second for the sake of discussion.
Any further discussion on the charter change? Are we ready to vote on the charter as it's presented?
We need to vote on
We got a second on that one.
Motion failed for lack of a second.
No, it didn't. She's got a second.
Well, I need to get if I'm going to get a second, I need to get a second within a reasonable period of time.
That was reasonable.
Not in my opinion. Okay, it's ready to vote on the, this would be an amendment that you've offered to the charter that the motion is on the table for. So this would be an amendment.
This is voting on her amendment, not.
So we're voting, this isn't the charter.
Strictly on.
This is just the amendment.
This removal.
Strictly on her amendment.
Removal of officers.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then we'll go back to the charter as amended.
The amendment that she made on the removal of officers, that's what we're voting on now.
I do have a comment about this. This may violate the due process of anybody who is tried under this. This is, I don't know if y'all know anything about common law in England, the Court of Star Chamber, but we decided we're just going to find somebody and we're going to get rid of them. I absolutely am opposed to this. I think it's probably illegal, and I beg you not to put this in our charter. I think it'd be a horrible mistake.
I pulled it off of Tennessee Code Annotated off of another charter.
No.
Yes.
under the city manager commission.
I also pulled it off of another charter.
I think we already voted. We voted?
Everybody voted? Amendment failed 4-2. We're back to the original motion as amended. Any further discussion on the charter as amended?
Just a quick, and just because I want to be 100% positive. We don't have the full content yet, right? We still got the kind of red line. I want to make sure that the November, I want to make sure that the elections are in here. I'm good.
Alderman Wilson, you recognize?
Yes, have we heard back from Lana Rogers? Mr. Worsham?
We have not. She was not able to get their staff to review this charter completely between now and the meeting tonight. There were a number of issues here that she suggested needed to be looked into. I looked into some of them. I tried to contact her today and I could not. Apparently the staff was not available to do that. I think that if we were to enact it as it is tonight, we might want to look at it again at the December meeting, because I do want to have her input into some of these things, especially what we just enacted tonight, the changes we made, and some other issues that I have questions about that I wasn't able to get resolution to today. I think it's premature to us to vote on it tonight, but if you do, I hope you do it in such a way that you can look at it one more time in the December meeting.
In my opinion, there's a number of things that just need further review. And I would encourage us to not adopt the charter as it's presented, because there are some inconsistencies. We've not had time to fully review it, as you've pointed out, so that would be my recommendation. Alderman Almacher, you recognize.
One of the changes for the public's knowledge that we have essentially discussed is changing the election cycle from August to November. And after consideration of tonight's talk, I may be changing my opinion on that. So I'm going to give it some more thought, and at this time I'd like to make a motion to postpone consideration until the December meeting.
Motion to postpone, need a second.
I'll second it, but there's no way to,
motion from Wilson, seconded by Wilson to postpone. We have a motion to postpone until December for a vote on this charter change. Ready to vote.
That's good. That's good.
Passes 6-4-2. So hopefully we can get something that's not pink lined so we can read it. Moving on. With government mills and plan in the amount of $25,000. That's on page 81 in your packet. Need a motion. Motion from Barry. Seconded by Mathis. City Administrator, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Basically, this is a contract not to exceed $250,000 through TDEC, through the TDEC plan. We have to we have to utilize this company in order to move forward with our stormwater plan. It's my understanding that they were the only one that did respond to our request.
Questions? Ready to vote? Passes 6-0. Item number 195, consider approval of award of bid to Adams Construction Company in the amount of $678,750 for the Kings Lane, Ovoca Road Sidewalk Project. Motion from Barry, seconded by Wilson. Recognize City Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the sidewalk project that we have all been waiting for. It's the one that will begin at Hillwood, extend all the way down to Kings Lane, from Kings Lane then going to Redwood. It is something that we've been looking for. We had 2 responses, I believe. Is that correct, Butch? 2? We had 3. My apologies. The low bid was for Adams Construction. Upon approval, we will begin the necessary paperwork to begin the process, and we're hoping to break ground as soon as possible while we can take advantage of the warm weather.
One question for you or for the park, for Butch. Are there any schedules, any timelines, commitments in the bid?
There's some in the contract, I can't remember the specifics, I don't have the contract with me, I just had the agenda item. What we need to do on this bid, there's 60 days to get this going with this contract. Is that what you're talking to, or a timeline to complete?
Time to complete.
I don't remember the specifics on the completion date in there, I believe there is one. But we do need to get moving on this because it's time sensitive, materials to be ordered, things are back ordered right now, so I'm hoping we can move forward.
I'd like to ensure that we have a schedule with the penalties for non-performance.
Liquidating damages.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Ready to vote? Passes 6-0. Item number 196, consider approval of the purchase of an iron blow dump trailer from Trailer Country in the amount of $11,095. Parks and Rec. Again, City Administrator.
Mr. Mayor, this was part of our budget.
Excuse me, I need to get a motion on the floor first and a second. Motion from Barry and a second from Mann. You recognize.
Mr. Mayor, this is something that was in our budget, approved budget for Parks and Recreation. It's a dump truck or dump cart that's going to be used for removal of large limbs and things of that nature that's going to definitely support that effort.
Any further questions? Ready to vote? Passes 6-0. Item 197, consider approval of a request for the city to designate as surplus property 11 Chevy Impala patrol vehicles for the police department. Details are on page 110. Again, get a vote, get a motion from Barry, second from Mann. City Administrator recognized.
Mr. Mayor, these are 11 vehicles that are no longer able to be used by our police officers. Many of them have not been used by our police officers in up to 2 to 3 years, we have found. We have gone through and made sure that we have a complete inventory of our cars that are being used by patrolmen right now. So these 11 are ready to be surplused, and I hope that you will pass that.
Very good. Just a point, I sure don't like paying insurance on cars we're not using.
I agree.
Any further discussion? Ready to vote? Passes 6-0. Item number 198, consider approval of the purchase of new 2023 Ford Interceptor SUVs for the police department from Lonnie Cobb Ford in the amount of $110,637. Details of those interceptors are on page 112. Motion from Barry, second from Wilson. City Administrator.
Mr. Mayor, these are 3 vehicles that we will be looking to purchase through the ARP funds. I want to thank Interim Chief Sons for all the work that he's done in helping us to clean up our inventory of cars. One of the things that he also did is I asked him to think outside the box on how we go about getting new cars, because we know there's such a backlog. He was able to identify a dealer over in Henderson, Tennessee that can provide the same services. They do have the state contract, but we can get those cars delivered in a lot quicker fashion by going through them. So I do recommend that we purchase these 3 cars. One of the things I want to make sure is understood, these 3 cars will then go straight to patrol, and then we will cascade other cars down to corporals, and then any SROs that do need cars will be getting those that really, I hate to say they're on their last legs, but they will not be those units that are the most up-to-date units.
They'll get them to school and back.
Sir?
They'll get them to school and back, the SROs.
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay, any further question? Ready to vote? Passes 6-0. Companion Bill 199. Consider authorizing a purchase of equipment to upgrade these new Ford Interceptor SUVs from the same vendor. And it upgrades the lights and all those things that go along with police cars, $26,724. Again, City Administrator. Got a motion from, seconded by Mann. You're recognized.
Okay, thank you. Similarly, we are needing to equip those cars. We have received 3 quotes. The quote from Lonnie Cobb is not the lowest, it is the second lowest. I think it is very important that we consider using Lonnie Cobb. They will give us a 4 to 8 week return versus the next, or the lowest bidder, which will be a 3 to 6 month return. One of the advantages we have is the fact that Lonnie Cobb will already have those cars in stock, and they will have extra incentive to get those cars equipped and out to us so they can be paid. So I highly recommend that we also go with Lonnie Cobb for the upfitting of our vehicles.
Any discussion? Ready to vote? Passes 6-0. Chase, you've got some cars. The last item on the agenda tonight is to consider a discussion of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen on study sessions being televised. And I believe that comes from Alderman Mann. Get the background.
Yes, so
Need a motion first, a motion from Mann, your motion, seconded by Allmark.
So I put this on here because I think there was some confusion both out at home and in the audience and up here on whether or not study sessions should be televised. This is just to have a discussion so we can give staff instruction on what we would like to see done, whether all of them are televised, none of them are televised, certain ones are televised, whatever we decide, it's to give staff instruction so they can write something up that we can all live with.
Alderman Berry.
My opinion is board meetings televised, special called sessions televised, study sessions not televised.
Alderman Allmark.
I'm fine with study sessions not being televised so long as we have minutes of those available to the public. I think at a minimum, according to Robert's rules, we should have minutes of those available. But there should be some adequate remedy for the citizens to be able to go back and review what it is that we're discussing. And, that was another reason why I brought some of the things to the board tonight, because we didn't have enough time ahead of time to review what was being brought to us in the study session for me to propose some of these changes, because I didn't have the charter in itself that night. So, again, the more information that we can give to the citizens, the better, but just so they know, sometimes we have limited information as well. In the interest of transparency, I'd like to do everything possible, but I do feel like it did make for more candid discussion. And so there was some positives to not televising the meeting. It made it more of a round table, and decreased the formality just slightly enough to where I felt like people could really truly be honest in how they felt. And there's some good to that. So I am going to vote that the study sessions are not televised so long as adequate meetings are kept for the public and those posted afterwards.
Ma'am.
And I feel the same way. I would just want to clarify, though, that the study sessions would still be open to folks to show up in the audience and be here if they wanted. But I think not televising them does prompt a more candid, less formal discussion, and I think we get a lot more accomplished.
I'll make one comment about the minutes. Typically, I'll refer to our city recorder to comment on my comment. Typically, you keep minutes of action items, things that are you vote on. We did this, you accomplished this. You don't record everything that leads up to that vote. Is that correct?
That's correct. So it would be more like transcribing a meeting than taking minutes. And that's hard to do with this group.
No, I think so. May I?
No.
How I could be recognized.
So, yeah, I think some guidance is due on that as far as for your position. I think what you would have to do is, obviously when we have a study session, we have numbered items for discussion. We always have that for our study sessions. We're typically there on 1, 2, maybe 3 items at max. And I think that what you can do is basically just share essentially the sentiments. Most of the time, we're giving our either our city attorney or our city administrator some kind of task by the end of that. So what are we looking for to come back to us in the meeting? And I think that's the main thing that would need to be published, is not necessarily what each one of us said at every moment, but what kinds of tasks and what are we looking for? What is the next step or the product of the study session? What is the product of the study session? That should be what the minutes should be.
Outcome and action.
Outcome and action, yes.
Yeah, I don't want dictation.
No.
Is that kind of good enough?
I think that works. We can do that and then have that posted online.
Okay. Any further discussion on the, actually, it's not for a vote, it's kind of a head nod. Is all we're doing tonight on discussion. So no other new business, we'll adjourn the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and go directly into the beer board. Any public comments on the beer board? Seeing none, we'll go directly to the consent agenda. We have 2 consent agenda items, minutes from October 23rd and November 6th minutes. Need a motion. First one, very second by man. Yes to approve. Consent agenda is approved. 6 no, there's no other unfinished business, no other new business. The beer board's adjourned. Meeting adjourned. Reminder that we will be meeting
well during the day. They just choose to night so that they aren't the prey. Keystone species are dominant or apex predators whose presence keeps a balance in the ecosystem. One of the biggest reasons for deaths in birds of prey is